it's not about the last month or the last week, it's about the last 15 minutes, the last 5 minutes. And of course, do it at the lowest possible cost as well. Now, the first of these examples is Mobility IQ. This is a new breakthrough innovation from Cisco. It's a software as a service offer from InterCloud, and it's also being used by our customers today. Now, we'll talk about what the actual use cases are and actually do a demonstration for you. But essentially what we're doing here is we're taking knowledge from the network and taking that knowledge and extracting it and visualizing that knowledge for different audiences in the same food chain or value chain. And we'll talk about what those are and how they use this information. And we're going to present it in 3 different views. The first view is a network operations view. The second is the marketing, kind of the business view. And the third one is really the managed services view. And I'll talk about examples of all 3 of those. So the first one is the network operations view. This is the data that the network operations teams would like to see around the performance and the health of the network. So what are they interested in? Well, how much data is transmitting in my network up until now? And that's 460 gigabits, or compared to 1.4 terabytes yesterday. How many devices are actually in the, let's go into here, and you actually see the bar graphs on that data and the progression. Aggregated and, of course, designed in a very simple and easy to use way. How many devices are actually on the network as of today? And how many devices were there yesterday? What we noticed yesterday was the peak number of devices that we detected was about 131,000 devices, of which only about a third were connected. And that actually kind of correlated to this room when I asked how many people actually have the application. Those were all of you that raised your hand are probably the ones that are connected. We can also look at traffic usage by time, and we can also look at how much was it, which hour today compared to which hour yesterday. We can look at the peak hour by users, when the most users were online and when they were not. We can actually look at the heavy usage. And typically, the audience in this room is the heavy usage for capturing information and uploading it to the sites that you do with videos and pictures. But we can actually see where that usage is occurring and in the last 5 minutes and the last hours. We can aggregate information, not just from Wi-Fi network, but 3G network as well, where this is a 3G network where voice calls are being transferred from the macro cell to a small cell network, and it's capturing how many hours of information, how many hours of voice calls have been offloaded. We can also look at things by access points to say which access point, which area of the network is actually the busiest. So Hall 2 this morning is the busiest with the most amount of traffic, and we can actually see how that changes as you go from different halls from one to the other. Now if we go back to, this is again the network operations view, where the audience is the performance and health of the network. If we do the same thing to the marketing person, the marketing view is the following, which is now the marketing person is interested in saying, what's happening and how can I translate that to some value for things that I can do to change the customer experience. So for example, the marketing folks want to know at the arrival time, what was the peak arrival time of the folks coming into the conference. So we have a by 15-minute interval, a window of how that's being tracked. We also have the top halls by move-in. They might want to know where to put certain advertising, where to charge more for certain billboards, and where to maybe do some things that they might need to by hall. So it shows that 30% of the devices in the last hour were actually coming in from hall 3. If you go back, we can actually see social information, which is what are the most active social sites that are being currently used in the environment. And it looks like, well, Skype is being used 3 gigabytes, and WeChat is being used about 180 megabytes today. We can also look at additional information by roamers. We can look at it by conversion rate in terms of actual people getting on to actually associating onto the network. And also, as we talked about, the halls by users as well as we had before. So all of that very useful for the marketing team to then tailor some particular offers. Now let's look at the managed services side. Now, this is selling the data to the business. Selling the data to the business so they can actually do something with it. In the FIRA, the local conference team may need to deploy resources based on where traffic flows is occurring. So they can take the information and say, well, my staff presence. Where was my staff presence? This happens to be some of our staff in the booth and where they are. But we also have how many devices are actually being used. And we also could have, for example, going back, we can actually have social media posts, which is showing us exactly how many media posts we've had today. And yesterday we had almost 10,000 media posts, social media posts yesterday. And today is still pretty early in the day, so I'm sure we'll get there as well. And you can also get to showrooming rates, the positive posts for social media, and track those to see where they're actually coming in and if they're positive or negative as well, and compare them to yesterday. And this one was quite interesting, which is top social by users, which is where you actually seeing most of the traffic. Now for a business, that's quite important, because if I want to advertise somewhere, I can actually see where most of my users are and tailor my advertising into those areas. So very, very powerful, very, very useful. So what you're going to see here is a portal. This is a portal that an operator may offer to their end customers from their website. And when we get started, you'll see a certain set of actions that will occur. The customer walks in, an SMB or an enterprise walks in, wants to offer, and there's a few package services that they have options for. And you can take a cloud VPN service, for example, a premium, which includes security, includes internet access, includes firewall, etc., or some other bundles that are lower than that. The customer chooses a particular service. In this case, I'm going to choose a cloud VPN premium. And what that allows me to do is to say, get into some interaction. The information I need to provide the system is how many sites do I have? In a VPN service, that's typically the first thing you ask. And then you ask how many people per site is what you expect, and also what the additional growth rate might be for those employees per site. Once you get that, you can actually get a recommendation from the system. So it automatically turns back and says, well, based on this, you may need to get to the next part, which is basically says, we're going to recommend a certain speed for you, depending upon certain things, but if you want a little bit more, please go ahead and order a little bit more, some upsell or a value-add capability, and you select maybe a 50 megabits per site recommended is what you have. Now, the other thing that you might want to attach, and in many of the cases when service providers sell these VPN services, it's difficult to get additional services attached. So this allows a way to attach additional services, drive attachment of additional capabilities. So we're going to add 10 SSL VPNs for remote access for some of the employees to be able to dial into my corporate network. And I choose perhaps the 10, it adds that capability. I maybe want to add some security functions. This is what's recommended in terms of filtering of medium level URLs. I can even go higher if I have certain security requirements. And then I select that, and once I get that, I've got a basic recommendation. The recommendation says, for this particular service, you're going to need these devices on your site, and here's the estimated price for them. And if I click next, it's going to give me an option to put some address in. I need to know where to ship those devices. The device's address gets configured, and I make sure that all of those are inputted. And once that's done, I go review my order, and I can basically look at the entire order per site, devices, as well as service capability per month, and I go ahead and purchase. Now, things made simple. From this point of orderability to actually the provisioning, there is no operators configuring anything. The devices then get shipped to the site, and once a device shows up on the site, you actually can see a few of the devices coming up here right now. These are the 4 sites, maybe 2 of them that we can see. Once the devices are shipped to the site, the end customer takes the device, attaches it to an Ethernet plug, and the device gets its configuration, all the information that's required from the network, and comes up. And the end customer is able to get a view of what's going on at that particular location, how much traffic is there, etc., and get a view of all the different locations that they have. Now this could be happening live. If I want to go attach additional services, I can go pick a device itself and then add additional devices, or look at where that device is and look at the performance and additional capabilities. Again, cloud-based, virtual managed services being able to be delivered inside an operator's environment. Very effective and very, very extremely efficient.